Hello, everybody, and welcome to Community Wise Podcast from LISC KC. I'm your host, Holly Long. I hope everybody's been doing well since the last time we talked in August. So, this month we are celebrating uh, Hispanic Heritage Month. Woo! And with that, we get a chance to have a dialogue with some emerging, not even emerging, they are solidified leaders in the Hispanic Latinx community. And the first one we have is our very own LISC KC board member, delightful Diosselyn Tot-Velasquez. Welcome, Diosselyn.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and thank you for inviting me, Holly. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Well, I'm excited to have you here. Our pre-podcast conversation was great, and I just want to keep that same energy. So let's just roll on into it, shall we?
Yes, let's go for it.
All right. So in my little research, right, uh, I found out that Hispanic Heritage Month, it just recently, not recently, but in the mid 80s, late 80s, turned into an actual month. It was initially created September 15th through October 15th, celebrating the histories, cultures, and contributions of American citizens whose ancestors come from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, Central, and South America. Fast forwarding, initially it started off as a week, and then it started off as a whole month. So, I know we mentioned in our pre podcast conversation about why do we need a month to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month? Why?
So I think we need a month just because of I think, like you said, we are honoring several different areas of Hispanic and Latino roots. So not everybody, I think when it was a week, everybody kind of got lumped together. But now that it's a month, everybody's able to really celebrate their own day. Because it is throughout September that you see the independence of different countries in Central America, South America. And again, it's just more of being able to celebrate and being festive in different cultures and their different days that they all truly had their independence.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we kind of talked about this, and you know how I feel. I personally, and I've said on this platform that Black History Month, as well as Women's History Month, should not just be a month. It is literally 365 days a year because guess what? I'm a Black woman 365 days a year.
Exactly. Yeah.
I ask you, what are your thoughts on expanding Hispanic Heritage Month to literally a year long celebration, or just not even a celebration, but just inclusion? What does that look like for you? What are your thoughts?
Oh man, that's I think when we talked about it, it's gonna. I said that's a loaded question, but it is. It's just there's a lot of different things that can look like for 365 days of being festive and included, and just feel part of and being welcome and celebrated as we are celebrated in this month, right? It's just being, yeah. I guess it's just being able to really truly belong to the community and having the same opportunities that everybody does, being able to have same access to resources, being able to be seen by others. There's so many things where people are like, see us, and we're, we're like you're saying, we're not only, we don't should only be seen those months. We should be seen all year, all day, every day, because we are who we are every day. That it would be really amazing to see what that would look like if people were celebrating of everything and just trying to be open about having conversations too of our culture and our heritage. I feel like, during this month of festivities, it does give you that open window of being able to ask more questions, inquire more, have this type of conversations versus other months that, it's not, there's nothing to tie it with. But at 365 days would just allow us to talk about this more and just have a lot more conversations and see what else we can do because there's a lot of things as far as inclusion and equity and how that would look like. for our community and everybody that is part of our community.
So, speaking in that same vein of inclusion, right? I asked
Hmm.
you, and I'm going to ask you today, in general, how does it feel to be a brown girl in a world like we live in, knowing intentionally it was not built for you to thrive? Which will speak into why we really need to move Hispanic Heritage Month past the month. It needs to be included on in our daily life. What are you thinking about that?
Ah man, to be that again, that was a question that I definitely ponder on since we talked. But I could say a lot, there's always that. I can say that it's easy, but I know it's not. I don't know what clicked exactly with me that made it possible for me, but I know that it's a hard pathway to continue to build and be encouraged to open up doors that may not be open for us and just even crack them, because sometimes we're not opening them up fully, but we're cracking them open, which is the best thing ever, right? It's finally being cracked open. And then hopefully the next generations get to go. But yeah, but every day you truly do have to figure out ways to continue to encourage yourself and fulfill yourself as you are pouring to other individuals, because it is a hard world. Because there's not a lot of us. We hear it. I hear it a lot, I guess, but or it's in my mind a lot where I think consistently I have to be 100% every day, all day to be able to be seen, right? Um, it is exhausting, and not to say that sometimes we already have it. Like it shouldn't be that we're having others to see it because it's already in us. That it is hard, it is draining, but at the same time, it's good and fun to see that you could crack these doors open and then have them available for the next generation and next energetic young individuals to get in there as well. And just, I guess there's a different feeling, right? Whenever we are able to overcome something, it's just being able to also have that win for our community, and also now that story to be able to inspire and encourage others to say, like, no, there's a way, there's an answer, somehow, somewhere, there will be a pathway that we can open up. So being brown in this world is hard, but it's not impossible to get to another level and be able to open up more doors for us. That's, I think, the best answer. If I can be very. Mhm,
What do you
mhm.
think it means to show up as your authentic self in all areas of life, from your professional life, from your personal life, to whatever form, every day, the ins and outs of your life? What does it mean to show up as your true authentic self?
I think personally for myself, because I think everybody's gonna find that for themselves. I don't think it's a, equation. But I think for myself, it's really just being able to hold strong to my roots, remember those roots, being able to remember because that helps me connect even stronger and be more. And also, it's the encouragement that at times I need to be able to say, okay, I'm doing it because of this, or this happened in my life, or this person helped me in my life. That, all right, this is going to help me move forward, right? So it's, I think it's a continuance of remembering why we're doing things, who we're doing it for, and who came before us, because it's not I wish it was tomorrow's answer, but it's not. So it's continuing to show up every day so then others can continue to show up every day as themselves, whichever that would be. But again, I think it's holding to your roots, remembering your story, and then also as you are remembering your story, being able to own your own story. By by, yeah, like by that I mean, it's I've struggle to know this, but just being able to know what parts of me I can and I am willing to share, and what other parts of me it's okay to say, all right, like this is where I go, right? Because it's new, it's trauma at times to be able to get triggered through your own story and remember those things. As much as they help you get grounded, they are something that we have to overcome, you know? So yeah.
So, who you are now hasn't always been. You are telling me, which I know there is a lot of similarities in our cultures as far as building on the legacy of our ancestors.
Yes.
So, in that vein, explain to me or describe to us some of your fondest memories of falling in love with you and your culture and what it means to be a Hispanic brown girl in the United States.
I think um one of the things that pop in my head right away. So I'm from Guatemala, right? I'm from Central America. But when I grew up, I joined a folkloric dance, but it was a Mexican folkloric dance. So I know the dances from Mexico, and I think because I am very proud of being from Guatemala, very proud of being a Chapina, but I'm also very proud of being Latina and Hispanic and all that it entails with having all that diversity in different cultures. Because I love to learn from different cultures, and I just am amazed by each one of them. So in that sense, I think it's just starting to love when I started hearing like, oh, my teacher for folkloric dance not only used to teach us the dance, but she would teach us about the dresses. She would, this is regionally from Oaxaca. They have these flowers because they represent their state or what grows there the most. She gave us those extra details. And then she would, not only would she have us hear her, but she would also have us take notes about the stories. And up to today, like I may not be able to say the whole cultural story, but I can identify the dresses when I see folkloric dancers. And, again, I'm not Mexican, but I definitely do, I guess, understand and enjoy and love to be festive about their festivities and their culture and what it means. And then that also triggered me to, figure out what mine was. Yes. And what that looked like and what that meant. And then it's very interesting for me personally because I feel like I balance out three different cultures. I'm from Guatemala, was born in Guatemala, was there for a couple of years, brought to the US, so then adopted the American culture. But during those times, Kansas was much more, there was more communities, Mexican communities. So I grew up with a lot of Mexican individuals. So, I talk like a Mexican. And when I go to Guatemala, I don't talk like a Chapina. So there's different for me that I feel like I'm just a little cultural of a little bit of everything where again, I get to enjoy what others love and like. I'm open to trying new foods at times. I'm open to trying new foods, but I never dismiss things. I think that's things that I learned throughout the way. I never really dismiss things. I want to learn about it before and try it out and then see what, you know, if it's something that I would like to do again or eat again or if it's something that, I'm like, okay, I learned about it, I respect it, and then here I go, right? But all of that also brings in that perspective of being multicultural, understanding different processes, and also being more empathetic on the different processes that individuals go to. Again, I share this a lot. I know that we don't share the same stories, but there are some parallelisms that, yeah, like we can understand one another at one level or one another. There's things that we can relate to that hopefully helps us in our work to drive us and then make it again easier for the next individual to not have to repeat the same things over and over again. That was a long answer. Did I answer what you asked?
You did. You told me and all of us that uh, it's what you learn through the dancing and the different what the different attires mean. So we I get that part for sure. Um, so let's see. Can you tell us a little bit more about you and how you came to the states and why you came to the states? And we don't have to capitalize on the trauma and all those things because we are overcomers for sure.
Yeah.
So talk to us about the opportunities that you've turned around um, in your favor and the work you are currently doing and how it all intermixes. I know that's a loaded a lot question. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I really like them because it helps me process, and again goes back to reminding my own story, right? Remembering where I came from. Where So I came when I was 6 years old. My parents got here to the U.S. My dad actually used to work in bringing back cars and Ford from Guatemala to the U.S. Um, Quickly, just to say, there was a dictator in Guatemala, and a lot of things happened that put many communities at risk and unfortunate events. So because of that, there was several reroutes that my family had to take, which ended up in that job of going back and forth, right? My dad liked Kansas. He loved it.
What
He
was
loved it.
it? I mean, did y'all have family here? Like, what? How did he just like? Oh, I think I'm gonna go to Kansas. Like,
No, so when he used to travel with the cars, he would go to different states.
right? I get that, but
You know,
like, what?
he went.
What was
I don't
it?
know exactly. I asked him. I was just like, "Where did you like?" And he said, "He's like, it was very calm. It was peaceful." He's like, "I thought this would be a great place to be at." So, we came, and as I remember, it was a couple of days after my birthday. I'm a December baby. So I came and I finally saw snow for the first time. And yeah, from there on, I went to, I pretty much grew up in KCK since I was 6. And that brought a lot of different opportunities by my community engagement, who I met within my own neighborhoods, my mentors that were from my church, that were from my community, that were from programs that were from school, after school programs, all these different individuals that really contributed to me when I had to go through my hardest times in figuring out what my status meant, what it looked like in my education, in my career. Uh, so yeah, just figuring all that out, and having honestly really truly blessed by having the community that I did to able to make me stand up again, and then also understand the strength and value that I bring forth. So yeah, it brought.
I feel like Mr. Rogers right now. Like, there's a guest at the door. All right. Well, hello, Pat.
Good.
How are you? Can you hear
I'm
me okay?
Yes, all is well. I hear you, Pat. Please meet delightful Diosselyn,
Hi.
Tot-Velasquez. Pat,
Hi.
that's the
Good.
Diosselyn. Diosselyn, that's Pat.
Good to meet you. How are you? Good to see you both.
Good to see you. We're just having a conversation about Hispanic Heritage Month and why, because I said this on the same platform that, with Black History Month, it's not just 1 month. I'm not a Black woman just 1 month out the year. It's 365 days. So, how and
That's
That's
right.
what we can do to get past the, oh, we're just going to celebrate it October or September 15th through October 15th. What can we get? And
Yep.
then we're talking about just your upbringing and what does it mean for you? And this is a question for both of you. What does it mean for both of you to be a daughter of your culture or a son of your culture?
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, well, we're gonna pause with our delightful Diosselyn and have Pat introduce himself. And Diosselyn, I want to get back to what you are actually doing, your job, and how that all intertwines. So be thinking about that. All right, Pat.
Holly, good to see you.
Good to see
Thanks so
you.
much for inviting me on this incredible program. I I'm just so thrilled, especially on a Friday, getting ready to start the weekend, to be able to discuss some great topics with you too today. Thank you. This is exciting. Do you want me to do a quick intro, just who I am, what I'm doing here? For you all and for those listening, my name is Pat Contreras from Kansas City, Missouri. Um, in a former life, I've worked in politics. I've done some foreign policy overseas as an American ambassador. So I've been a recovering politician and a recovering U.S. diplomat. And these days, I find myself in the construction world, where I help with building community bridges all across the metro in Kansas City, and helping improve people's lives. That's really, at a nutshell, what we do at McCown Gordon Construction. And I've been coming up on maybe let's see, this will be my fifth year. But over the span of my career, about 17, 18 years in government, politics, and private sector, with a little short stint in nonprofit in between. That's a little bit of Pat Contreras, if you will. But I'm just so excited to be here, excited for this robust discussion. So thank you.
Well, okay, tell me this. Tell us a little bit about your background and who taught you how to fall in love with being unapologetically you and your
Mm-hmm,
culture,
mm-hmm.
and what it means to be a Hispanic male in 2021 in the United States.
Yep.
That's a loaded question, I know.
That's a lot. We could probably spend all afternoon. I could write a book on it. But for the sake of just this conversation today, I would say, it was my dad that taught me about the importance of, one, living your true self, fighting for what you believe in, and serving others. One of the things that my dad, um, of many things that he has brought into my world, was the love of culture and music. My dad loved being able to bring the Latino community together through celebrations, whether it was him spinning the sounds of Tejano or you name it, Motown. It was about bringing the Mexican culture here together, really that Mexican American experience, the second and third, fourth generation Mexican Americans that have grown up here in Kansas City, to celebrate each other, to celebrate life, to celebrate our humanity, knowing that there's so much that we all go through every day, to fight the good fight, right? To continue to fight for our families, for good jobs, for education, access to healthcare, you name it, to break down some of those barriers of access that our community has historically faced. My dad was always focused on how to celebrate us, and I think that was one of the things that introduced me early on to just loving the culture, loving the music, loving the food, and loving my people here in Kansas City. So,
That's dope. So how has that shaped, because I know that it's shaped your career and where you are
mm,
now. Why, well, I'll say this. How are you using what your dad has instilled inside of you all those years ago? And
mm.
how are you doing that in shaping, building the bridges in communities like you said, that you all are doing? How does that all work in your world, and how are you
Yeah.
producing those fruits
Yep,
of your
yep. No.
dad's labor?
I think what really at the core of what my dad taught me, when you against the backdrop of our culture and our people, was hard work. My dad was the first to get up, first out the door, first to show up at the job site. He was a union electrician with IBEW 1464, former steel worker, and he taught me the values of just showing up early, you working hard, and you got to go above and beyond. And that was my dad. It was work ethic, and I've taken that to how I approach my academic learning, going to school as a first generation college student in my family, to even going to the Ivy Leagues and going to Columbia University in New York, to serving on the front lines of American foreign policy. um, I wouldn't have had that opportunity if it wasn't for my dad and for my mom, and for all that they had done to help lift up my family, give us an opportunity to go to school, to travel and to do these things. I mean, I always think about where we've been able to go has always been because we've been standing on the shoulders of giants. I think of my grandfather, who was a migrant farm worker. He worked the sugar beet harvest, settled here in Kansas City, was a meat packer, built a home for my grandmother here on the west side. Ran out of money. Actually, he was supposed to build his plans were to build a 2-story home on Madison on the west side. He built enough for the basement level, ran out of money, and put a flat roof on top. And that was where my mother grew up. And us as when we were the grandkids at that time, that was our home, was being able to just wake up to abuelita making homemade tortillas, and then but we would go out and play all day, and it was that the sacrifices that they have made to help us elevate the young people, the next generation. And that's what my hope is, to carry on that next generation engagement, that next generation leadership to those that come next.
That's awesome, Pat. I think I relate a lot to what you're saying, especially when you said we stand on shoulders of giants.
Mm,
Honestly, there has been amazing trailblazers before us,
right.
and just honor what they have done. It's amazing. So thank you for sharing that. I really enjoyed that.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I think about, you know, I'm in a period of discernment in my life right now where I just turned 40. What's that legacy that I want to leave, and how do I channel the energy and the compassion and the intention of my ancestors, those that have gone before me. Those, some of them I don't even know. I just have pictures of them, right, in black and white. And it was my great great grandmother who came from Guanajuato, Mexico, from Leon, and my grandfather and his side of the family, and they, I wonder what it was like when they were thinking, all right, well, let's go to Kansas City. Like, okay. I wonder what that was like over dinner, and what that conversation was like. But they came here, and they served. My grandfather served in World War II on the front lines, right? He came back, and he was also just faced with so much racial discrimination in Kansas City, and his thing was always about being your authentic self, fighting for your family, fighting for your culture, fighting for your community, and you just leave it all out in the field, right? I mean, his thing was like, I'm going to be at the end of my life exhausted and happy about leaving it all on the line, right? And fighting for what he believes in. And it was so amazing to see, because he would always talk politics. And that's how I got into politics, was really listening to him and tell his story about just voting, right? Getting our family to vote, getting our community to vote, our cousins, all of them. I was so proud on when I ran for office. I ran for a statewide office in 2016. I was the first Latino to run statewide in Missouri history. And my grandfather, one of his just lifelong dreams was to vote for a Latino, right? And he cast his vote, and it was about maybe 3 months before he passed away. But I still have that picture of him with my sticker, and him voting for me and for our family and for our future and for everybody. And I think about that every day. I go out and hopefully do some good work to carry on that legacy.
Oh, that's so. I mean, I know I had technical issues, so I kind of cut out, and now I'm back in. But from what I heard, wow,
Mm.
whew, that's deep. So, delightful Diosselyn, you want to share with us what you're doing, your job, and how that has everything to do with your foundation that your mother and your father have instilled inside of you, and just even your quest to becoming a homeowner around the corner from them, and the importance of, you know, I'll say this very honestly, Kansas City area, we have a problem with um, young professionals leaving, growing up here, and not coming back. Whereas all of us have decided, either when after we left and came back for a little bit, or for me, I left after, I mean, before college or during college, and didn't come back until like 10 years later. But home is home, and your home is only as strong as you are, right? So, what made you want to settle your roots where you are, and to thrive and to create a thriving environment around that?
So as I had mentioned, and Pat, I know you didn't hear this part, but I'll catch up later. So as I had mentioned, I had to go through a lot of different struggles, and I think Pat, again, just hearing your story, I can relate to a lot of what you're saying, and just hoping that I can make the same type of steps in my life, my own life, as I continue to grow. But yeah, I had a couple of struggles. I had to fight for my own education. I was a U visa holder, which meant that a crime was committed to my family, and that's how we found a pathway to citizenship. I call it my blessing in disguise, to be honest with you guys, because it did open a lot of doors. It was not ideal, but it did get me in a different pathway. It opened up my eyes. It showed me what community meant. It gave me a lot of the support that I didn't know I needed. And then it also helped me to understand a whole nother side of me that I hadn't completely seen at that moment or at that age. So because of that, I was very strong in my community and engagement. I did a lot of work in the arts. I still do a lot of work in the arts, but at a young age, I did murals and did a couple of green initiatives, revitalizing jobs. And now, currently, I co founded Urban Works, which does a lot of the arts projects that I continue to do by mentoring, doing murals. I do murals in alleyways or in the something different to enhance different community needs or to call attention to not having sidewalks or to not having certain things within our community. So we do pocket parks, we revitalize vacant lots. And again, it goes back to that's what started keeping me engaged. It started having me engaged in the community and started really helping me develop my creativity and my expression. And then I turned it around and I work in affordable housing and community development. So I'm a relationship manager for NeighborWorks America, and that's what I do for the Midwest region. I'm one of the only Latinas in the team, not in the whole national team, but just in the regional team, and very excited to be there and learn all these different new things and with the great team that I have. But I also do advocacy on the sideline. Like you said, Pat, there was a lot of individuals that helped me throughout my journey, and my duty, I feel like my honor, it is to be able to give back. So I'm actually running. I'm a candidate for our USD 500 school district at this moment, and it goes
Yes.
back.
Yes.
Thank you. And Pat,
Mm.
what you were saying about your dad going to vote for the first time, I was blessed to become a citizen with my mom this
Congrats.
April. So I said she's going to have a wonderful time to vote for the first time and
Oh,
see my name
yes.
as I
Yes.
am.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank
Amazing.
you so much. No, like everything you're saying is what a lot of the reasons why I do what I do and why everything ties into it. It's just it's a passion. It's just nature. It's what we're taught.
Mm.
It's how we were brought up, and it's what we do. Somos familia.
Mm.
We're just really family in Hispanic culture. That's what I drive myself to in everything that I do for my work.
So how can
I love
we
it.
as a community normalize not talking within the bounds of October or September 20 or 15th through October 15th? How can we, what are our ideas? Do we have ideas? What, not even, they don't even have to be ideas, but let's use this platform to express why. Why do we need to go outside these boxes so we can learn about all of the different cultures? Because even in Hispanic Heritage Month, like we talked about earlier, or signifies various individual cultures within a culture. So talk to us about that. Round robin, it don't even matter who.
I'll go real quick. So I think honestly, if we step outside of our boxes, if we're able to understand different cultures, I think we're gonna see the honestly the parallelisms that we all have, and understand that we can work better, way better, united than separated or isolated or just this community versus that community. Right? It just shows you how we're all truly are just human beings, and being able to support one another is the biggest thing we can do, because the mentorship that happens from just hearing somebody else's stories, like just me hearing Pat's stories, right? And understanding what that means, and then hearing others and having mentors and all these different things, like everybody shifts a little bit at my growth, and being able to have that for us to have it with everybody. Imagine what else we can be doing, or how much further along we could have different areas developed out. because we're needed in different areas and there's not enough of us.
Yep, and I love the tradition of Hispanic Heritage Month, where we stop and we take a moment to acknowledge all of those in the arts, in culture, in history, in music, you name it, that have paved the way, right, for us. Whether that's in entertainment, it's in politics, it's in government, it's in private sector, it's in small business, it's in community organizing, you name it, and that they've paved the way for us to then take it to the next thing. And I think what that next thing could look like is a platform to be future ready, right? It's about engaging the next generation of Latino, Latinx leaders all across the country, right, around the globe. And to your point, that you had mentioned earlier, um, you know, we it's so important that we acknowledge our humanity, our vulnerability, and how we can get so much more done as a united front than being separate. And I think that's the big part that's one of my personal passions is how do we continue to find those things that we can continue to drive together, right? Because at this point in time, when I think of even here at the local level, we need representation at all levels. We need representation at all of our city halls and our school boards and our communities, you name it, that are out there doing the good work of advocacy, but also fighting for policies that are going to help us get more access, help elevate the conversation around what's the most important issues in our time. And that's a 365-day deal, right? It doesn't begin and end from September to October, but it's every day. It's all those folks that are out there fighting that fight, and I think we could use this platform of future readiness to engage the next generation of leaders that are going to help pave that way for the next generation. And I think of the hypercultural Latinx, right? Think Gen Z, the millennials, and those that come next that are ones that are highly mobile, that are culturally fluent, right? They could easily blend into, and they do the code switching all day. And I feel like I'm part of that generation as well, right? They can go into certain neighborhoods and code switch and go into boardrooms where they may be the only minority there and easily adapt. And these are ones that are also conduct most of their lives on tablets or on screens. And how do we engage? And a lot of these folks too also have disposable income and are the ones that are going to be buying the new homes, right? Or the ones that are going to be starting their new business, or the ones that are going to be the mentors to the next generation, whether they're in community or they're in business or civic government, you name it, nonprofit. But taking it to that next level of engagement, and of authority, and commanding the future through the next generation. I think that taking Hispanic heritage to the Hispanic also readiness of the future is going to be how we take it to the next thing, so that we make that relevant every single day. So not only being of the longest standing tradition, maybe in some cultures, of celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, but not only be the longest, but how do we become the most relevant Hispanic bloc, of our lifetime? And that's my utopia, that's my North Star, and that's what gets me fired up.
Dope. I agree. For me, it would be, let's make the world better for my kids and that they can be better for their kids. And it's all generational, right? The same things that we are experiencing, for instance, the murder of George Floyd. Here we are, that a year later, but yet, let's be honest, it's been going on for more than, we've had the same argument for 40 years, if not, if you really go further back from the inception of this country. So, I'm of the school of thought that let's talk more work, and what you two are doing in the community is beyond beautiful. I am proud to know you all. I am proud to be, just a champion and just to root you on, just because we need that synergy amongst everyone, right? And yeah, specifically because this is Hispanic Heritage Month, and brown kids and a black kid, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you know, the idea of everyone coming together. That's
Yep.
really what it is, and just imagine
Yep.
how more powerful, like you
Mm,
both have touched on,
mm,
the world could be. So
mm.
I have hope.
Yes.
I
Yes.
believe that the space of community development, in which LISC is very strong in. That's what we do. I believe that those are also cornerstones of each
Yes.
culture. And
Yes.
we adore you. We love the work you're doing. Let us know how we can support you. We could continue this conversation on, but we are already at the 51-minute mark.
Wow, wow,
I
that,
mean,
I love it.
that's
minus my technical difficulties, but when you flowing, you flowing. So, um, any closing remarks about, if you want to talk about Hispanic Heritage Month, that's fine, or any just closing remarks in general about the road forward and going forward in this world together.
Ladies first.
Ooh, I was just gonna say I'll let Pat go first. Okay, I think oh man, I guess I'll use this time to just say
Mhm.
keep pushing forward, echenle pa'lante. It's not the easiest road, but it is the most rewarding. So definitely anybody out there, just continue to celebrate all your uniqueness and hopefully you see the
I
great
love that.
value that it is.
Yeah, I would just say to you, thank you, and to LISC for hosting this. I didn't know that this podcast was here, but now I'm going to be tuned in every week. I don't know how often you do it, but this is great. You're so good at the questions, and you got the headset on, super official. Can't wait to see you on the big screen, CNN or whatever. But just thank you for thinking of us, and for me, I just am honored to be here to be able to speak to this. And yeah, and to those listeners that are out there, just I mean, reach out too as well. I'd love this to be an ongoing conversation. So reach out on LinkedIn, social media, Instagram, Facebook. But I think that there's just so much more and so much power in our voice, and we need to continue to just dig in deep and elevate that conversation, and keep that top of mind, right? And keep that long term, that North Star top of mind as we're in there fighting every day, and it just could seem like, oh my gosh, this is just, I just keep hitting my head against this wall, right? It just doesn't seem to keep moving, but it is. Like, we just, if we are unified and we go forward and keep fighting, eventually that wall is going to move. And I think that that's the most important thing to think about, is just, what's my role in this evolution, this legacy, going back to those shoulders, those giants that we're standing on, and the ones that came before them, those ancestors that have paved the way. How are we honoring them every day? How are we fighting to honor them and to present this next level of leadership? I think that could also pave the way for the ones that come after us. That's what would be my legacy, and that I think that could be our legacy together, united and stronger than ever before.
All right. Well, there you go. This month's Community Wise podcast. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much.
And Charles is going
We
to come back
appreciate it.
Thank
on
you.
and let us know when everything's uploaded. Um, hey, Charles.